So I've had a number of people ask me about the Billy Joe Saunders versus Gennady Golovkin fight and what my thoughts are. Should Billy Joe take the fight? Is it too early for him? You know, is he a man by rejecting this, seven-figure offer? And I wanted to break it down. There are two reasons primarily why I don't think Billy Joe should take this fight at this stage. Now I'm going to give you the first one from a pure boxing perspective, and I'm going to give you the second one from a financial perspective. So we'll start with the boxing one. In many senses, that's a lot simpler. Let me say that had this reason not been in play, I would be buzzing for a Billy Joe Saunders Golovkin fight. Golovkin, understandably, is the favourite for that fight. And I'm not going to sit here and say Billy Joe Saunders goes and beats Golovkin definitely. But I make Billy Joe Saunders a live underdog in that fight. And I think he could certainly be a stern test for Golovkin. And possibly be the sternest test of Golovkin's career, actually. It's a fight I'd really like to see. Two very, very good fighters. A good stylistic matchup as well, for my money. But, having followed Billy Joe Saunders' career extremely closely, having watched all the many interviews that Billy Joe Saunders has done over previous years, I don't believe that Billy Joe Saunders feels that he's ready for the fight. I don't necessarily believe that Billy Joe Saunders thinks he's going to go over there and beat Golovkin right here, right now. When I watched Tyson Fury Klitschko, I got the sense that it was Fury's time. Fury was ready for it. Fury was going out there to do what he knew he had to do. With Billy Joe Saunders versus Golovkin, we've all heard the quotes that Golovkin could beat both me and Chris Eubank Jr. on the same night. I'd fight Golovkin if I was allowed an AK-47 in the ring. The truth is that Billy Joe Saunders doesn't want the fight. The truth is that Billy Joe Saunders is not mentally ready for the fight. And the truth is that Billy Joe Saunders, at this stage, possibly doesn't think he can beat Golovkin. And for me, whilst it's painful to admit that as a huge Saunders fan, whilst I actually think that I give Billy Joe Saunders a bigger chance in that fight than Billy Joe Saunders does, it dramatically lessens the occasion for me. It makes it a far less inspiring, less interesting fight. When was the last time you watched a fight where one of the guys didn't think they could win and you were really excited to see what happened? It's not really why we tune into boxing. For me, Billy Joe, with his comments over the past years, has lessened the value of this fight from a boxing fan perspective. And I genuinely would be less excited for it, because I don't think at this stage Billy Joe Saunders believes he's ready to go out and beat Golovkin. And I don't think any fighter should take a fight unless they've got a separate attitude to that. So that's the first reason why. Call it cowardice, call it business boxing, call it sense, call it whatever you want. But no fighter should take a fight that they don't genuinely believe they should win. Now the second thing is from a financial perspective. There's been a lot of figures bandied about. For me, the most realistic rumours I've seen, and these are the most widely reported recent rumours, is that Billy Joe Saunders was offered $2.5 million for the fight. Which kind of makes sense, as we understand David Lemieux was on around $2 million for the Golovkin fight. Now, $2.5 million translates roughly, and somebody will probably comment and tell me I've got this horribly wrong, but roughly is £1.5 million in UK money. Now, that is a huge amount of money. That would be by far the biggest purse that Saunders has achieved in his professional career so far. However, £1.5 million is not a different world amount of money compared to some of the other opportunity that will be available for Billy Joe Saunders now, given his position as world champion. I know my international viewers may struggle to get a full bearing on this, but let me tell you, a rematch between Chris Eubank Jr. and Billy Joe Saunders would be a truly massive phenomenon here in the UK. It is one of the biggest fights available in the UK right now. And this would be a monster, mega occasion. That would be a fight For me, that would easily sell out the O2 Arena, easily, or the Manchester Arena, wherever you want to call it. I know Billy Joe's ticket sales haven't always been the most spectacular, but the hype behind that fight will make it a mega event if that goes ahead. And I also think, with Box Nation's new ability to launch pay-per-views, that would be a real big pay-per-view seller. Yeah, if you look at the fact that Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte recently did 450,000 pay-per-views for the British title, you've got to say that this fight could do real big numbers for a world title. Now, Joshua Whyte is probably a bigger fight because they're heavyweights, and Joshua is probably the UK's best loved fighter at the minute. Having said that, Chris Eubank has got a huge profile. Billy Joe has got a big profile. There's a huge animosity between these guys, and there's also a very controversial first fight. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this could do 200, 300,000 pay-per-view buys. Billy Joe Saunders versus Chris Eubank Jr. a rematch. I really wouldn't. And I wouldn't be surprised if it sold out a decent-sized arena. Now, the other thing you've got to factor in is, unlike the Golovkin fight, where Billy Joe Saunders is the B-side, in a Chris Eubank Jr. fight, Billy Joe Saunders is very much the A-side. He's the defending champion. Not only that, he also beat Chris Eubank Jr. the first time they fought. Yeah, so he's very much the A-side. And unlike the Golovkin fight, it's actually possible that Billy Joe Saunders may well be able to position himself to get the majority of that purse. 60% of the purse, 65% of the purse, something of that nature. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily sitting here and telling you that Billy Joe Saunders will make £1.5 million for that Chris Eubank Jr. fight. I'm not. It may well come under that. But I think it'll be similar league. I think it'll be a 7-figure payday, let's put it that way. And I think if you factor in that it will sell out an arena in the UK, and if you factor in that Box Nation will now be able to put it on pay-per-view, I think that fight is a fight where Billy Joe could get £1 million plus purse. If you factor in the fact that he's the A-side and he can probably command a larger portion of the purse than Eubanks. I mean, we know how much Eubanks is fighting for against Nick Blackwell, don't we? You know, it's one for like £250,000 purse bid or something. So, you know, I think that Billy Joe Saunders can get the bigger half in this world title fight rematch. So, what I'm getting at is, you've got two fights. Let's say Golovkin's 1.6, 1.7 million. And let's say Eubank is somewhere between 1 and like 1.2 million. And I think that's reasonable given pay-per-view buys, ticket sales, etc. Now, on one hand, you've got Gennady Golovkin. A fight that you don't think you can win. Against an opponent who could ruin the rest of your career. And on the other hand, you've got Chris Eubank Jr. A fight that is probably actually going to get more publicity in the UK than if you fought Golovkin. A fight that is probably going to raise your profile more. Let me tell you, more people in the UK know who Chris Eubank Jr. is than Golovkin. Now, factor in that you've already beaten Chris Eubank Jr. And factor in your confidence and your knowledge that you've got the ability to beat him, so you're confident of doing it again. Do you take the $1 million for Chris Eubank Jr., a fight you know you can win, or the $1.5 million against Golovkin, a fight that, honestly, you don't really believe you are going to win? From a business perspective, there's only one answer, really. There's only one answer. Yeah, Billy Joe's someone who's already earned good money in his career. He's someone who's, I think he's 26 years old. He's got big fights ahead of him. Big fights ahead of him. You know, there's talk of Canelo, Cotto, Andy Lee matches. You know, that's a bit premature. But my point is, he's got a lot of earning potential in the future. Mathematically, surely it's sensible for him to take the much easier payday against Chris Eubank Jr. Whether you think he'll win that fight or not, he's already proven he can win it. Make the money, get the big fights, and maybe focus on Golovkin in a year or two's time. For me, those are the two reasons, if I was Billy Joe, I would reject the Golovkin fight at this point. One, because the Eubank option is almost as financially advantageous. And two, because I wouldn't take any fight if I didn't believe I could win. Now, the fact that he doesn't believe he could win, that may alter your opinion on the guy. I actually think it's nice to have a fighter be honest. It's not very regular you hear a fighter speak with such frankness on the issue. So yeah, I wouldn't take the fight. And from a boxing fan perspective, whilst before I would have absolutely loved to see this matchup, it would genuinely lessen it for me that one of the two men is in there for the payday rather than the fact that he thinks he can win. Let me know your thoughts on this. Am I barking up the wrong tree? Has your opinion on Billy Joe Saunders changed? And do you agree with my reasoning? If you've enjoyed this video, do give me the thumbs up. I'm going to film a follow-up when Billy Joe and Golovkin's next fights are announced, as well as Chris Eubank Jr.'s side of things as well. So if you'd like to hear that, please subscribe to the channel. I wouldn't want you to miss out on that. Many thanks for watching as always.